Traffic and border authorities are out in full force to ensure that travellers arrive safely at the Christmas destinations. Some government ministers spent the last couple of days monitoring roadblocks as well as border posts. Home Affairs Minister Aaron Motsoaledi visited the Kopfontein border post between South Africa and Botswana yesterday. He identified that smuggling of counterfeit goods and stolen cars as a particular problem for border officials. The minister joins us now in studio. Good evening, Minister. That was not the only border post that you visited, but a couple of others as well.
Good evening, Aldrin, and good evening to the viewers. I visited a couple of, border posts because long before the festive season, because I'm still on a mission, even now it's not yet over, to visit the 6th busiest border post in the country. You'll be aware that the land border posts are 53 in number, but 6 of them are the busiest ever. Responsible for close to 80% or even more, maybe let me say more than 2/3 of the activities of the arrivals at the borders. So that's why I went to visit one of them, Kopfontein, because Minister Mbalula, Minister of Transport, and the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs and the Deputy Minister of Transport, the 3 of them went to BOSASA'S. So I went to Kopfontein.
And tell us about, is it Oshoek in Eswatini that you also visited? What are some of the issues that you've picked up from these various border posts?
Well, Oshoek border post between us and Eswatini, it's sometimes confusing because people will believe the busiest border post ever and the biggest is BOSASA'S. But I was told in terms of commercial value is Oshoek, precisely because Eswatini is getting most of their supplies from South Africa. So one of the main issues which I discussed there with the Minister of Home Affairs, Princess Dlamini, was the fact that Oshoek border post doesn't operate for 24 hours. And we are working around the clock to make it operate for 24 hours. It deserves that because trade between us and Eswatini has actually grown.
And the other border post as well as the one in Maseru, Mozambique as well, the Limpopo border post?
I visited Limpopo border post. I visited Limpopo border post. They are also begging us to open it for 24 hours because there's a lot of activity between us and Mozambique. Maseru border post I visited, it is running for 24 hours. So they don't have a problem there. I still have to visit Fixback, also between us and Lesotho. And I must go back to Kopfontein because my visit yesterday was just to see the operations. I need to go there with the minister. All these border posts I'm talking about, which I visited, Oshoek, Lebombo, Maseru, I met with the ministers and their teams. Yes, because it's not just a visit. We are discussing what you call, a huge project, very huge, I must say, Aldrin, which is called one-stop border post, whereby the whole infrastructure and the whole layout of those 6 border posts are going to be changed into what we call a one-stop border post. What it means is, when you move through a border post, let's say the Kopfontein where I was, you wait on the South African side. Doesn't matter how many hours you wait. After they process you still go to wait, perhaps for a similar number of hours, if not more, on the other side. Now, one-stop border post is constructed and designed in such a way that the officials from both countries come and sit in one building. You got processed once, and you pass. And then you have been dealt with by 2 countries. Alternatively, another model of one-stop border post is that when you go into the other country, you are processed by the South African side, but when you come back, you only get processed by the other side. So there are 3 different models, but the most popular one is that they sit under one roof and process you and you pass one. So that type of a project is huge to be done by one country. So when I go to the border post, I meet them, the officials on both sides report, they report progress.
How long is that set to take before it's implemented?
Sure. Well, it's difficult for me to say, but Treasury has already approved and we've already appointed a transactional advisor. And there are already technical teams by both countries.
Is this only between South Africa and Botswana at the moment?
No, I said it's 6.
So does this mean that the ministries from all these other countries have also agreed to this?
Yes,
to this?
Six border posts. It is Beitbridge with Zimbabwe. It is Libombo with Mozambique. It's Oshoek with Eswatini. It's Maseru with Lesotho. Fixback with Lesotho. And then is Kopfontein with Botswana. So there are 6 of them. As I said, all of them have agreed the teams are meeting.
Yeah.
The only thing that is missing at the moment is that I've not yet met ministers in 3 of the border posts. For instance, when I was supposed to go to Beitbridge, there was a change of ministries in Zimbabwe. And the minister who made an appointment with me couldn't come. So the new one said they need some bit of time.
Yeah.
So I'm left with Beitbridge, I'm left with Marseille, with Kopfontein, and I've left with Fixback.
Yeah.
But it does not mean that work is not going on. Our officials are meeting. Designs have already been made. Have already been shown designs. For instance, that we're going to have so many lanes on this one. This lane will be for trucks only and nothing else. This other lane will be for taxis only. This one will be for private cars, and the other one will be for pedestrians. Those designs are already there.
Yeah. At the moment, actually, Minister, earlier on we spoke to Matume from the provincial department in Limpopo around the issues around Beitbridge. And the concern is there that there are not enough Home Affairs officials to actually process people who are going through the border post. I know that you've said about 400 extra officials that have been deployed across the country, various border posts, but Beitbridge seems to be a sticking bomb.
Well, Aldrin, I've learned that everybody who appears at the border post tend to make their own diagnosis. Yes, they look and say, if this happens, the question is that diagnosis right or wrong? Because it's an individual who feels so. Now, this system of one-stop border post, we brought experts from both, actually the one-stop border post is not only run by governments, even the private sector. Yeah. Because they are the ones who suffer. For instance, when trucks queue there for more than 12 hours or even for a week, as sometimes it happens, because of customs, the companies, that are using those trucks are the ones who suffer. So it's a PPP. All those experts were brought together to make a diagnosis. Now, in Beitbridge, doesn't matter how many people we put there, that layout needs to be expanded, it needs to be improved, because it's the busiest, border post between us and the rest of the continent. So it's not about a number of people. For instance, Kopfontein, it used to have 30 people. For this festive season, we made it 42. We made it 12 more, So it does not necessarily mean those 12. If there's an avalanche of people, they'll suddenly cope. But we know that if we did the one-stop border post, it was diagnosed by, experts in the Department of Transport, private sector, etc., who said this 6 border post needs to be redesigned. Yeah. Especially on the South African side, remember most of them were designed during apartheid when it was not necessarily, they were not necessarily welcoming lots of people from the rest of the continent into the country.
Okay, Minister, let's focus on the UNABRIDGED certificate. Lots of people responding to a question that we post, that we send out on Twitter around what some of their concerns are. And a question here from Jose Khadu, who says, the issue of UNABRIDGED birth certificates, why should a present mother need the permission of a deadbeat father to travel with their child? Do away with that.
No, I'm not going to do away with it. And there are 2 issues here that are usually confused and used interchangeably already. Firstly is the unabridged birth certificate for people who visit South Africa, whereby it says if you are a foreigner, you are coming to South Africa with a minor child, you have got to bring an unabridged birth certificate. I'm sure you're aware that has been abolished. It's cancelled. When people come here with minor children, they don't have to bring unabridged birth certificate. The passport or visa, where it's necessary, where it's appropriate, is enough. Now the one that they are staging a battle on, which they usually confuse, is when a South African parent, a father or a mother, leaves this country with a minor child. There all we want, the main issue here, we want consent from the other parents. I think that's the central issue. Yeah. We want consent, and so the unabridged birth certificate is because both parents, the abridged birth certificate has just got your details, who you are, where you were born. The unabridged one has got details of your parents, who brought you into this world, who's your father and who's your mother. Now, under those conditions, we want to know whether the other parent has actually given consent. Actually, in Kopfontein yesterday, I had that situation where somebody was shouting because they were stopping and returning them. Now I hear the media, especially SABC stations, they are reporting about it, just talking about that man shouting as if Home Affairs is not doing its work. What we found there was that he had 2 children, right? One was having all these documents I'm talking about because he had the child with that lady.
Yeah.
The other child they were having, the lady has got that child with another man who was not there. So he's not the biological father. He just came in, he has got another child, and that child he has got with this lady has got all these documents we want, but not this one. And there was not even in his passport, it did not even show who his mother and his father is. So we asked the mother, what proof do we have that is even your child, even you, not even to talk about the man? That proof was not there, but we could provide it, provided they travel back to Zeerust, into the Home Affairs office, and they were taken there. They were taken there.
So what happened there that was different?
No, they went in there, the files were opened, and they checked. For instance, one of the things, which is what that person there is saying about an absent father, one of the things we wanted to check is, when this child took a birth certificate, did the father come and availed himself and say, this is my child, and let this name appear on the birth certificate? If he didn't, it means he's not accepting paternity. He's not acknowledging it. So when the mother travels...
So in that case, when the father doesn't accept paternity, that means that the mother
if he has not made himself available, why should we travel the mother? Which is what happened yesterday. When she arrived in Zeerust, because I was there, we went with her. We opened the files. We found that when the child took the birth certificate, this father was not there. He never acknowledged paternity. Then from there, a letter was written for her to go and pass at the border. But at the border, that information was not there.
What happens in the case where in a relationship a couple has a fight, they have an argument, and the child, the father of the child, for instance, doesn't want to sign the consent form? What happens in that particular case?
But Aldrin, when people have got all these arguments, they don't just end in the house. Somehow they end in some officialdom, either in social development where the mother go to report, or it end up in at the magistrate office where she you know, or there must be some information somewhere. And actually, we don't want that information at the border. When you apply for the passport now, for this child, because he's going to go outside, we are starting to look for that information. This passport, can the name of the father and the mother appear in the passport? Yes or no? If you then tell us that, no, this father is not there, we say go and get the proof, either from social development or from the magistrate office, etc. That proof ought to be there. So I don't know why people make this thing so difficult. So it's a very important thing to protect parents so that they don't punish each other through the children.
But I think, Minister, what you're not answering is that in the case where the father is refusing to consent, what happens in that particular case? What recourse does a parent have?
No, but he must give good reasons. If he's refusing, he must give good reasons. It can't be unreasonable. If he's refusing to consent because he can give a proof that this mother is running away with his child, then that issue must be dealt with. Perhaps even it must even end in a court of law where a judicial officer gives us direction.
What recourse does a...
Let me give you an example.
The single mother or the single father...
Let me give you an example, Audrey. You remember that time when a plane was sent from Nigeria with pomp and ceremony that the xenophobia Nigerians are going away. There were 4 South African kids who nearly left with Nigerian fathers, and their mothers did not know. They didn't give consent. So we stopped them there and say, you can't take this child out. It's a South African child. Their mother is not giving consent. And they didn't, because there was no reason for them as far as their consent for those children to leave.
I'm asking currently, Minister, what recourse does a single parent have in the case where the other parent is refusing to consent?
But I've just answered it.
You're speaking about the courts?
No, I am saying the other parent must come and prove to us exactly why he's refusing. It's not something that must just be, I'm just refusing, you know. He must come. It has to be reasonable, because the main issue here of getting consent is just for us to know that this mother is not running away with this child forever sometimes. That's all that we want to know.
Yeah.
So if there's a
so who's going to drag this parent who doesn't want to give consent to a Home Affairs office? Who's supposed to get him there?
Aldrin, I said to you this. The problem is when people start raising it at the border gate. I said, when you take a passport these days, because we now, you remember in the past we used to give abridged birth certificate. We are now abolishing it to have unabridged. Unabridged have got the name of both parents.
Yeah.
When you take the passport, that's what we ask for. First of all, when you take a passport for the child, that is, we ask you if you are married or unmarried. If you say I'm unmarried, then we start to check whether that father is present in the life of the child. If you say you are married, obviously it's obvious that both parents must appear there.
Even if but you could find a stepfather.
A stepfather.
You can find she's married to the stepfather of the child, not necessarily the biological father, Minister.
But we want consent from the biological father, not from the stepchild.
So my argument is
not
that
from
marriage,
the stepfather.
The marriage doesn't mean anything. It really
no,
doesn't
it
mean
does
anything.
mean something. It does mean something. I'm getting confused when you say the marriage doesn't mean anything. So it does mean something, because if you are married, the course that we follow is quite different. We know that there are two parents here already. If you are not married, we know that at least the other parent is not there. What we need to check is what is his status with the child. So it's quite different.
Okay, Minister, let's just quickly put out this tweet. Someone wants to ask about BOSASA, and Dingu Putumile says, bought LINDELA at a staggering 60 million. How will the camp be managed with BOSASA no more? Monthly rentals to BOSASA for so long. Will an investigation ensue? Establish any wrongdoing? How BOSASA came to own it? And Gupta's wants only Lesotho and Indian passports. Are they still South Africans?
LINDELA was not bought for a staggering 60 million, for that matter. The evaluation which was done by the Department of Public Works was actually 158 million. The 60 million is what the auction ended up, and we bought it at that amount. As far as we know, the size of that place, that 60 million is a very good buy. Yes. The second question was...
the second question, can we just get the tweet up again?
Yes.
It says the monthly rentals to BOSASA for so long. Will an investigation ensue to establish any wrongdoing? How BOSASA came to own it?
No, it's their property.
Yeah.
The Department of Home Affairs went to lease it from them. It's their property. It's what they used to own. Now we got it because the property was being liquidated.
So
in other words, we are renting it from BOSASA. If you remember, BOSASA had lots of contract with government departments like correctional services. When the scandal of BOSASA broke out, other government departments moved out of BOSASA. We couldn't, as Home Affairs, because there was just nowhere to go. We checked with the Defense Force if they've got an old military barracks. No. We checked with the correctional services. No. So we had to stay there. There was just no way. Because if we give it up because of those scandals, it will mean the foreign nationals who are sentenced by court for repatriation. Remember, people who go to BOSASA are not sentenced by Home Affairs. They are sentenced by a court of law after they've gone through the processes of whether they are illegal or not. And a judicial officer says, look, we agree this person is illegal, must be repatriated, they must go to BOSASA. So it's sort of a legal matter. So we always had to keep it. And unfortunately, now that we have bought it, it's over. The Guptas once only sold to Indian passports. Are they still South Africans? Yes, they still are, because they've got citizenship, if you remember. The story was debated many times in Parliament. They haven't renounced South African.
So they're still South Africans?
Yes, they haven't renounced it. Yes.
Whoa, okay.
But what I know, just to add, is that some of them have applied for their passports. I think the pages are full or expired. And of course,
renewal of their passports?
Yes, they've applied.
Currently?
Yes, definitely.
Even with the South African government trying to extradite them?
Precisely.
Okay.
We have got applications. Yeah. But we have kept them. Obviously, there's no way I'm going to be stupid enough to... the Department of Justice looking for them and me giving, because they are in trouble. They can't travel to any part of the world because they are using a South African passport. So I just said, I'm sorry. How do I issue a passport to somebody who's running away?
When did they make this application?
I think 2-3 weeks ago.
2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And the conversation was already underway?
Maybe 4 years. I can't be very sure, but it's not something that happened a long time ago. Definitely not.
Has
not more than 4 weeks ago.
Has department been in contact with them?
No, we just received the applications, and I instructed that they be locked in a safe.
Yeah.
They are in a safe sitting there.
Okay.
Yes.
And let's look at this tweet from Msutu Mokabelo, who says, why South Africa makes it impossible for fellow African brothers and sisters to gain the relevant paperwork in order to live harassment-free in this land of ours? And who benefits whilst the border control in South Africa is in shambles? Because people only bribe because they can.
There's nobody who benefit, Aldrin. I'm answering the second question.
The second question, yeah.
Yeah, there's nobody who's benefiting. The gist of the matter is that you will remember that under apartheid, the borders were managed completely differently. They were managed by commandos, by the army, even by the white farmers who were deliberately given land there and giving weapons. And they were also managed through electric fence. We had many Mozambicans who were electrocuted at the electric fence between Kruger National Park and Mozambique. Now, after liberation, we said we can no longer live like we are at war with our neighbors. All those things were removed. The mistake which happened, which you accept, is that they were replaced with nothing. That's why now we are in the process of replacing it with the Border Management Authority. You are aware that we've debated many times. The bill has just been passed in the NCOP, where it has been stuck for 2 years, and we have resolved the issues. So our weakness is that we removed what apartheid put there, but never put any alternative. Now the Border Management Authority is going to be an alternative. There's no way anybody can gain anything from what's happening at the borders if they are porous. Because sometimes people think about only foreign nationals coming in. It's not only about people. It's about smuggling of goods, of cars. It's about smuggling of counterfeit cigarettes. It's about smuggling of human trafficking.
But what about on our
it's
end,
also about drugs.
To process these applications.
What
about on our part, this is now from the Home Affairs Department side, to process some of these applications?
What about
whether it is asylum seekers, whether it is refugees, and so because there's been a lot of complaint that the Home Affairs Department is failing when it comes to those.
I know. That's a very common perverse belief, that people are not being documented. Aldrin, you remember those people who did a sit-in there in Pretoria? Eventually, when the judge ruled that they must be taken out, we took some to jail, to correctional service. And the women and children we couldn't arrest, we sent them to Lindela. We started processing them. 85% of them are documented. When people do a sit-in there, it doesn't mean they are not documented.
Undocumented,
85% were documented. It's only 15% which were not documented. And there is this belief that people get attacked because they are not documented. It's not true. Have you ever seen people in the townships going to ask you, where's your document before they attack? It's not like that. And the second thing which I asked former mayor of Johannesburg, because he was also singing the same song, people seem to believe that the solution to this economic problem is documentation. And I ask him, if we happen by any chance to document everybody, will there be enough jobs? Because the war here is about jobs. Will there be enough houses? Will there be enough businesses? Is that what people are thinking? That you just get a piece of paper and then all these things will be there? And lastly, let me tell you, when people say they are not documented, what do they mean? And I don't blame them. It's reality. Everybody is looking for a refugee status. Because when you are an asylum seeker, you are applying to have a refugee status. Once you are given that status, you deserve everything that a South African deserves. That means you have got a right, which all South Africans have, except one right only. You don't have a right to vote. But all the other things you have got, or you deserve by law. Now, everybody wants that status. When you give them any other status, they come and say, I'm not documented. For instance, when you arrive at the border and say, I'm looking for asylum, we give you a 5-day permit. When you arrive at where people apply for asylum at the station, we give you a Section 22 permit. That allows you to stay in South Africa.
Would you then be able to tell us, Minister, how many foreign nationals there are in the country?
No, I can't.
Because?
I won't be able to. Because many of them who come illegally, we don't know about them.
You see, and that's the problem.
No,
that is the problem that has been
but
raised.
I've already told you it's a problem of the leaking borders. Yes. It's not a problem of documentation, it's the leaking
but
borders.
it's also a problem that you don't know who's in the country.
How will you know if the borders are leaking and people are coming illegally?
Because they are undocumented.
No, it's not because they are undocumented, it's because they are coming illegally. We even call them for documentation, and some of them don't come. The main issue here, Aldrin, is this. People believe you just give a document. When a person asks for refugee status, they are given that status via the United Nations Convention of 1951 and the Refugee Act of 1998. Those things are unambiguous and are very clear. You deserve that status internationally, not only in South Africa. If you come from a country where there's war, if you can prove that you are being persecuted for religious, for political reasons, for cultural reasons, or even for sexual orientation. Many people come and say, I'm a refugee, I'm being persecuted. And the officials want to know, they want the proof of that persecution. If they don't find it, they won't give you the refugee status. Then people cry foul and say, I'm not documented. You can't just give anybody a document because they want it. They have got to qualify because I'm using the laws of the country. I didn't pass the laws. The laws are there. And I don't understand why some of you believe we must just throw the laws aside and say anybody who comes get documented. There's no country on earth that works like that. Why do people want South Africa to work like that?
I appreciate your time, Minister. Just quickly before we let you go, beetroot as part of a Christmas lunch, yes, no?
The what?
Beetroot as part of Christmas lunch, yes, no?
I don't understand that question.
Beetroot?
Yes.
What do you think about Christmas lunch that has beetroot in it?
No, many people love beetroot. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't understand why you're asking that question.
Thank you so much, Mr. It was just to end this conversation on a bit of a lighter note, because what's currently happening on social media is a debate around whether there should be beetroot in the Christmas lunch, because Zozibini Tunzi said that the problem with the beetroot is that it goes and it touches other foods without consent. So over to you.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
She's not touching.
Well, let's continue with this story.